It is one of the natures of Indian culture that there is this deeply embedded sense of spiritual awareness, and oftentimes from the West, their view of God is misunderstood as being many gods, polytheistic, and that simply isn't the truth. It is simply different aspects of the divine that we chant to. So Vasudev, Bhagavate, all right, these are just names of the same one source, same one God. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chanting is just a way for us to return to our center. I'll talk more about being centered in a moment. But just as you sit, I invite you to begin to hum to match this tone. Then you can take that hum and turn it into Om. I'll share with you two readings. The first from the Spiritual Diary, and this is on the quality of loyalty. Yogananda writes that God is equally present in all, but he is most definitely expressed in the heart of the spiritually minded, loyal person who thinks only of him. Through your loyalty to God, you can establish your oneness with him. Loyalty attracts divine attention. Thus, when the storms of life gather and the waves of trials buffet you, you can guide the boat of your life safely to the divine shores by realizing his omnipresence. And this is on the quality of awareness. Swami Kriyananda writes that awareness deepens the more it is centered in itself. So note that word centered. All right, awareness deepens the more it is centered in itself. But the farther a person's interests extend outside of him or herself, the thinner the supply line of her awareness becomes. If a person's consciousness is centered outwardly in things, it takes on those qualities which it attributes to those things. Jewelers, for instance, often have bright eyes. People with no sense of higher values have dead eyes. Man needs to learn to change his focus from what he is aware of to what he is aware with. He needs to become more aware of the source of his awareness at his deepest center, God. Through this awareness, his enjoyment even of the surrounding world becomes intensified 1,000-fold. And we'll end with our class with an affirmation on awareness. As I was meditating this morning, my image kept returning to a map, and these are the sorts of things I wasn't thinking about a map. It's just that a map began to appear to me, and it's the kind of map that in my car on my control screen, where my map ends up showing up if I'm going to use GPS. And if I get off course, if I've set it a goal, if I've given the computer a command and said, take me here. And so it will map out a route, we've all done this, and it will get you there. If you take a different route, the map will be slightly confused, and you'll have to repress a button or press a tab that says recenter. You know, the same is true when I'm training for my pilgrimage in June, as I often am. I take various hiking paths, and I have an app on my phone called All Trails. And so I put in the map or the route I'm going to take, but sometimes I end up going a different way. And the map gets confused and says, you know, are you off route? And there's a little tab I can press and it says recenter. And sure enough, it points me back to right where I am. And so this idea of recentering, I realized that as I was, as that image appeared to me, there was a reason for it. And it is that is the practice of yoga. Not just here where we are, but rather it is that ability we have to push a non-physical tab and recenter ourselves. Because our goal is clear, but sometimes the path to get to that goal changes. Sometimes we need to respond to something. One of my favorite sort of non-core teaching books is a book by my friend David Gamow. It's called Freedom from Stress. And he points out that we oftentimes get very stuck on the things that are not really changeable in our lives. We cannot change them. And he uses the image of a skier going down a mountain, and if you see a large tree or a large boulder in the path that you are following, you're not going to ask, why is that boulder in the way? I'm going to act as if it isn't there, it shouldn't be there. And of course we hit the boulder. But instead what we do is we simply adjust. We swerve, we go around, and then we find our path again. We recenter. So during your day, during our yoga practice as well, there will be times that we will come back again and again to our center, because we oftentimes know the goal, but we oftentimes find ourselves off track. And we need to reset, recenter. So as we are here, let's go ahead and begin this process of centering. Within our yoga practice, it oftentimes begins in some way by pulling our energy inward, reversing the senses. The senses are all beautiful tools for us in this physical world, but they are temporary tools. Each sense, sight, smell, feel, hearing, and taste, they all have corresponding spiritual origins to them. For example, the ability to see through our two eyes, when we eliminate the physical organs of the eyes, we put our attention to the point between the eyebrows, and we see, not with the two outer eyes, but with an inner eye, we see light. Same is true of sound. The same is also true of taste. That if you can learn to do practice what's called Kachari Mudra, bringing the tongue back to the uvula, it's a sacred or a powerful yoga technique. It requires a little bit of practice. But you can oftentimes get a sweet taste in the back of the throat. It's called amrita. And so when we are beginning our practice, we're really bringing our energy back in. So make sure that you're seated. The reason for mudras oftentimes is in order to reverse that flow. So touch your thumb to your index finger. That's a mudra. It seals the energy inward rather than outward. This, for the record, by the way, is called Gyan Mudra. Gyan meaning discrimination and wisdom in particular. And it is very wise when we use our individual willpower, thumbs in this case, to dominate, to go over the top of our index fingers, our ego. I'm number one. So we're going to put our willpower on top of that and close that loop off. Now we visualize the light in the core of our body as a tube of light. This tube is flexible, so instead of being like a rigid neon tube, it's much more like a rope light. And as we inhale, the light is condensed and moved upward, compressing upward in our heart, throat, and spiritual eye. So we make this leap by visualizing in the center of our body a tube of light that we can connect and control the light. As we inhale, the light rises and comes to the point between the eyebrows. Staying within that same pathway, that same tube, as we exhale, the light remains here, but we go down for more. So every inhaling breath is like bringing a bucket of light inward and upward, emptying that light, that bucket at the point between the eyebrows, and repeating that process, staying to your center, letting the breath be relaxed, but using it productively. Every inhaled breath brings light inward and upward. What we are doing right now is a form of pranayama, or energy control, breath control, life force, prana control. So this is literally prana, life force, yama, control. There are many tools that we can use along the way, and so just drawing upon an affirmation is a simple tool, but it's a very powerful one that can help you throughout the day become recentered. So finding an affirmation to work with over a period of a day or a week, perhaps even a month, is a powerful tool to really keep yourself centered. So as you inhale, bringing the light inward and upward, I encourage you to let the voice in your head say the words, I set ablaze. I set ablaze. And as you hold your attention to spiritual eye, but exhale, the fire of inner joy. The fire is that light of awareness that we see behind the forehead, and that every inhaled breath fans the flames of self-awareness. Self with a capital S. So as you inhale, the light's coming up. I set ablaze. As you exhale, the fire of inner joy. I set ablaze the fire of inner joy. So what we're doing right now is relatively simple. Staying centered is relatively easy because it is a primary thing we're focusing on. And so we use this practice very much like lifting weights to use the resistance in order to build muscles, build muscle mass, to build strength. I set ablaze the fire of inner joy. Now, to bring the body into the practice, and here we are, what we're doing now in our sadhana is really to mirror the reality of daily life. We engage in an activity, and that activity ends, and we immediately look for the next thing that needs to be done. But what we're doing now is to offer a different model, that behind all the activities is this place where I'm always in my center. In the background of my awareness is always going to be this reference to the divine energy flowing through me, and I'm going to stay centered in it. And when I forget, as we always will, when I get off route, off track, I return to the center. And so again, we can bring our body into the practice, and this is how we gain strength, the ability to stay centered, the ability to recenter when we are off track, is to inhale, lifting arms up, exhale, lowering arms down. Inhale, arms up, exhaling, arms down. So the physical movement is not the primary focus. The physical movement is originating from the energy going inward and upward and inward and downward. And so as we inhale, the hands are just reflecting what's happening in our center. So our movements are a reflection of our being centered. And when we lose it, we recenter. Let's go ahead and come into a few other warming up exercises. So if you will, please bring your arms up, palms together, interlacing fingers, pointing index fingers up. We're going to practice another pranayama technique called Uddiyana Bandha, which is the technique of compressing energy by pulling the belly button back and pushing energy inward and upward. So if you inhale, stay to your center, pull the belly button back, tense, that's Uddiyana Bandha, and you will compress the energy up here behind the forehead. And as you exhale, you release the breath, release the bandha. So as you inhale, belly, ribs, and chest expand. Breath is retained. Navel is drawn sharply and firmly towards the spine and held there as you gaze to the spiritual eye. When it's time to release the breath, you go ahead and release it. As you exhale, you release the bandha. I set ablaze the fire of inner joy. And as you're in this seated mountain pose, my thoughts and energies lift up to touch the sky. Exhaling, releasing, staying to your center. Inhale, belly, ribs, and chest expand. Bandha is applied, navel center is drawn backward. My thoughts and energies lift up to touch the sky. Good. We're going to inhale, pointing all the way up, trying to touch the ceiling. Exhale, arms down, and turn palms up. So I invite you to go ahead and see what's most attractive to you right now. Is it the affirmations at the center of life's storms? I stand serene. My thoughts and energies lift up to touch the sky. Perhaps you're simply returning to that central pathway and staying there. Bringing light with every inhale breath inward and upward, going down for more as you exhale. Perhaps you're finding that something small would help. And so as you inhale, coming in and up, you could draw out the sound of the syllable Hong, H-O-N-G. And of course, as you exhale, staying to your center, Saw, S-A-U. In using Hong Saw, we are watching, observing, witnessing, but we are not engaging or changing. Neither are we judging. We're simply letting the breath flow through us and following it with that mantra that says to our deepest self, I am spirit. It takes great energy, great willpower great determination to stop identifying with the events in your life and to begin to identify with the truth that is permanent about who you are. Hong Sa is a mantra that reminds us at the soul level that we are, in our deepest permanent reality, spirit, not form. Let's go ahead and continue our physical warming up by bringing the right hand beside us, inhaling, left arm up and leaning into the stretch. Press the left sit bone into your seat. Reach from the shoulder rather than the fingertips. And you really stretch the left side of the body. Breathe into that stretch. Send energy where you want the energy to go. And inhale the left arm up and exhale the left arm down. Take a moment to recenter and to notice along the way that things have changed on the side of the body that you've stretched. Now bring the left hand beside you, inhale the right arm up, and we'll come into the stretch as well. And so the affirmation here, strength and courage fill my body cells. If the mind is wanting something to do or the mind is distracting you with unwanted thoughts, give it a practice to engage in, which is often the affirmation. And so as you're inhaling, the tension is building, the mind is affirming strength and courage. And as the exhale breath is releasing, the body is relaxing. Fill my body cells. Strength and courage fill my body cells. Good. We'll inhale the right arm up, exhale the right arm down. Palms upturned. I set ablaze the fire of inner joy. Strength and courage fill my body cells. And so when we recenter, we oftentimes do it by using these tools of affirmation or mantra or chanting. All these are powerful ways to push that little tab that says recenter, and this is how we do it. So one could say that our physical yoga practice here on the mat is simply a model in which we can control most variables. And in controlling those variables, what it means is that we can narrow down and see the change that we have made through our efforts by keeping everything else the same. Here our body is still, thoughts are controlled using the affirmation or mantra. And we are then aware of who we are. The term self-realization is the one that Yogananda used. It's not unique or coined by him, but there are other words for it. God realization. This means that the word God, G-O-D, and the word self with a capital S are pointed to the same thing. I set ablaze the fire of inner joy. Here joy is pointing to the same thing. God, self. So we're about ready to come into some more warming up. And we're going to do this by coming onto our hands and knees. And we'll do a little bit of simple movements, forward, backward bending, some weight bearing, a little bit of flexion and extension. And so let's go ahead and come onto our hands and knees. That will be tabletop position. I'm turning my toes under. As most of you are aware, I'm doing a whole lot of training, hiking, walking, in preparation for the pilgrimage I'll be taking in next month. And so by turning toes under, I get a nice stretch to my Achilles heels and calf muscles. And that feels really good for me right now. So you can try it and see if that works for you. We'll arch up into cat. Inhale into cow. And all of these movements, both the cat position and cow position, are always emphasized as if the spine is being stretched. Body and breath are still united. When we bring our body and breath together so there is no separation between them, they're operating cooperatively in synchronization with one another, that is a great first definition of yoga, Y-O-G-A. It means union. And if we can practice yoga by unifying our breath and our body, well, that's a cool beginning practice. Let's come back to neutral, and we're going to flex the side or the spine laterally. So push your hips to the right, look right, and you'll have a stretch on the left side of the body. Inhale back to center, hips left, look left. Inhale back to center. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and bring our knees together beneath us. If you cross right big toe over left, you'll find that you can sit on your thigh or on your folded legs. If that does not work for you, you may find it helpful to come up, pad between your hips and your calf muscles. It's a little easier on the knees, a little less weight on the heels. So here's a moment when we recenter. Now, maybe you haven't ever lost your center, but for most of us it happens much of the time. And it's a practice of, again, recentering over and over again. No judgment. Don't be negative about yourself. Why can't I stay centered? That doesn't help. But to take a moment, as you inhale, at the center of life's storms, I am serene. At the center of life's storms, I am serene. Then a simple forward bend, coming across the thighs, bring your forehead to the floor. While you're in this pose, I invite you to affirm, I relax from outer involvement into my inner haven of peace. There's a lot of teaching in that little affirmation. I relax from outer awareness into my inner haven of peace. Inhaling back up onto your folded legs. Cross right big toe over left if it's come apart. Rest your hands in your lap right beneath your belly button. And return again to that central pathway, the light in the core of your body. Then to get a corresponding backward bend, coming up onto your knees, turning toes under, pressing hips forward, lifting the heart up. So we're really revealing the front of our body, especially the heart center and throat. With calm faith, I open to thy light. One of the most thrilling moments for me on this path has been when I first began to realize that what I speak from my heart is heard by Divine Mother. And so when I use words and they originate in my heart, with calm faith, I open to thy light. There is truth. It's a literal practice. It's not just a nice thought or sentiment. Good. As we exhale, we're going to come back and onto our hands and knees. Straightening legs out, we'll come into plank. And now to give a little bit of a stretch to the back of the legs, let's push the hips straight up. Have your feet hip-width apart. And we'll alternately, as we exhale, press one heel to the floor while lifting the other heel up. So exhale the right heel down, but soften the left knee. Inhale, right heel up, press left heel down. And we'll continue to alternate. Inhale, left heel up, press right heel down. Inhale, right heel up, press left heel down. I encourage you to go slowly and let your breath lead the way. Good. Let's inhale, heels up, exhale, knees down, and we're going to make our way up and to standing. So go ahead and come all the way up. And we're going to practice Durga Pranayam. Now you'll remember that this is a flowing practice. Feet remain separated, hip width apart, toes are spread wide, weight is to the front of the feet. And as we inhale, we lift arms up. So here we are still using our body, but always remembering that center, that core of energy. Exhale down. Inhale and rise. Again, just like that moment of realizing for me that Divine Mother was a reality, not a figment of my imagination or a nice thought. That her presence is omnipresence. Her presence is my presence. She is present with me, molecule by molecule, atom by atom. The space between the atoms of my body are the space between the atoms of hers. So as you come forward and down, you might affirm, nothing on earth can hold me. Nothing on earth can hold me. And as you inhale coming up, I am free. I am free. I am free. So if you come forward and down, interlace elbows and hands together, we'll be in Padahastasana, or jackknife pose. Soften your knees just a little. Let your head be heavy. And every time you exhale, surrender to the pull of gravity. Nothing on earth can hold me. So in the midst of this activity, we are reminding ourselves of our higher power. Turning palms up, we'll inhale and rise. Exhale, arms down, and coming into standing mountain pose. You might revisit your feet. Are they still parallel? Toes spread wide, weight to the front of the feet. Inner thighs active, arms to your side or hands to your heart. I invite you to affirm. This is one more moment when we press the recenter button. We find that pathway of light in the core and we affirm, I stand ready with my heart wide open to receive your divine guidance in my life. I stand ready with my heart wide open to receive your divine guidance in my life. Good, let's go ahead and bring our feet together so they're really close together. We're going to go ahead and put our weight onto our left foot, bring the right heel into position. So this is tree pose. After tree pose, we'll come into half moon pose. So simple poses. There is, of course, a physical side to what we're doing here, and I have to say that I like the physical challenge. And so I don't dismiss that as important, or as not important rather, but I also want to say that in the end, our bodies are just a way of practicing uniting things, bringing the scattered pieces of our awareness back into a whole. So that's yoga or union. I stand ready with my heart wide open to receive your divine guidance in my life. By putting the weight on one foot, we've upped the ante. We've made it a little bit more challenging. Let's bring hands together above us. As you exhale, you can bring your palms together so they're just like this, thumbs crossed over, or you can bring them down, palms pressing together, thumbs crossed over, and inwardly we're still staying to our center. So here we are. Our yoga practice, our sadhana, is really simply a way of removing the things that we can't control and giving ourselves a little bit better chance to stay centered in the midst of activity. And it's a training ground, a proving ground for daily life. And so here we are in the midst of balancing on one foot, hands above the head, maybe eyes are closed, and yet you're centered. And when we are centered, we can affirm truthfully, I am calm, I am poised. And if we are not centered, we can remind ourselves that we're capable of this. I am calm, I am poised. We'll switch sides, inhaling, arms up, exhaling, turning palms away, coming back to standing mountain pose. I'm calm, I am poised, I stand ready to obey thy least command. If Divine Mother asks me for a favor, if she asks me to do something, she will ask because it will be for my own highest good. Shifting weight to the right foot, bringing the left heel into position, inhaling, arms up, palms coming together. I am calm, I am poised. I'm calm, I'm poised. I'm calm, I'm poised. Beautiful. Inhale up, exhale, arms down, and feet side by side. So here we are in Tadasana once again. I'm calm, I'm poised, I stand ready to obey thy least command. Don't be timid about these affirmations. Use your willpower, not to shout them, but rather to increase the willingness that you have to recenter over and over again. Let's go ahead at this point and come into a standing backward bend, then we'll come into half moon pose. The standing backward bend is a simple one. Feet begin in Tadasana, left foot steps back, angles, but the whole left foot is to the floor. Walking that right foot forward a little bit more, we can bend that right knee, but press the left heel down. Keep your heart moving straight forward and sweep arms up. As you press the left heel into the floor and lunge more through the right knee, you'll feel a really deep stretch in the left hip flexors. So you'll feel it right here in the groin. Our affirmation here is simple. I am free. I am free, I am free. Inhale, right knee straight. Exhale, arms down. Step left foot forward and back to standing mountain pose. If you're steady enough to close your eyes, I encourage you to do so. It will make it easier to recenter. Nothing on earth can hold me. I am free. Shifting weight to the left foot and stepping the right foot back. Again, the right foot is completely to the floor. Left knee lunges. Tailbone tucks under. Sweep arms up. Nothing on earth can hold me. I am free. I can open my heart wide. I can engage in positive activity, and I can always learn to recenter in the midst of that activity. I'm calm, I'm poised. Inhale, left knee straight. Exhale, arms down. Step the right foot forward and come back to standing mountain pose. I encourage and invite you to turn your attention back inward to return to that tube of light in the core of your body, remembering that it's flexible, not rigid. So if we come into half moon pose, bringing our feet together, inhaling, arms up, interlocking thumbs above you. Let me step back so that I don't, so my hands are still in the frame. And weight is through the balls of the feet. You can lift the heels up real high, and as you move your hips left and shoulders right, you keep the left heel gently off the floor. Press the right heel down, but you're only going to the sides. You're not going forward or back. So your right leg is bearing weight. Your left foot is there for support. Your left knee is soft. The left side of your body is lengthened. And as we inhale, we affirm that strength and courage fill my body cells. Good. Let's inhale coming up. Okay, you can come to the balls of the feet if you like. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but lowering heels down and arms down. Come back to standing mountain pose. Strength and courage fill my body cells. I stand ready to obey thy least command. Good, let's inhale, arms up. Exhale, hips right, shoulders to the left. The affirmation again, strength and courage fill my body cells, but I'll let you practice on your own. Keep your breath long, powerful, complete. Use the affirmation, but then move beyond it. So it's a non-verbal practice, but the message remains the same. Good. Inhale up. Exhale, arms down and to your side. I'm calm, I'm poised. Strength and courage fill my body cells. I stand ready to obey thy least command. Let's do one more standing posture. We're going to practice chair pose. And so, again, coming to your feet, I'll turn sideways for this. My feet are separated, but my weight is to the balls of the feet. Toes are spread wide, so even if I lift my heels up, I've got a lot of surface that I'm in contact between my toes and the balls of the feet. So inhale, arms up, heels might be off the floor, retaining the breath, come as if you're sitting into a chair, and then pause and stop. If you have weak ankles, if the ankles are an issue for you, this is actually a great pose. Keep your legs spring-like. There's not tension. There is a simple teaching that tension is the enemy of the yogi. It doesn't matter whether it's emotional tension, mental tension, or physical tension. So here the physical tension is kept relaxed. And so energy is free to flow. As you inhale, draw it into your heart. As you exhale, send it into your hands from the heart. So inhaling, heart fills. Exhaling, heart is emptied into the hands. My body is no burden. It is light as air. Inhale down, sweep arms up, and we're going to exhale all the way down at this point and come back to standing mountain pose. So I invite you and encourage you right now to recenter. You can do it in a number of ways that we've already practiced. Most easily accessed for me is the ability to visualize that tube of light and lift light up again and again. So here I'm in the midst of activity, but I'm taking a pause and recentering. Let's go ahead and spread our feet wide apart, and if you have a block nearby, you might want to bring it into use. So having the block there, we'll do a wide-legged forward bend. This is Prasarita Padottanasana. And, it translates basically into a wide-legged standing forward bend. The block may not even be necessary for you. I like to use it just at the very beginning. So we're going to move from this wide-legged stance, and we're going to let our hips move backward through space. In yoga, everything has value. Everything is important. The pauses as well as the movements. And so it is important the direction that you are moving. Hips travel straight back. Keep your inner thighs drawing towards one another, but your feet are pushing down and apart. Try to bring your torso into a position where you are parallel to the floor with your spine. You can bring the hands to your block if you like, but keep your elbows a little bit soft so you're not propping yourself up with your arms. Our affirmation here, I relax and cast aside all mental burdens. I relax and cast aside all mental burdens. I'm going to separate my feet a little bit wider apart still. I'm going to move my block to the side, bring my hands down. In fact, I'm going to interlace elbows and hands. Try that and see what it feels like. It really brings the center of gravity more inward and downward in your body. And so you might be able to really let yourself surrender. Here's what surrender sounds like in this pose in an affirmation. I relax and cast aside all mental burdens.
I relax and cast aside all mental burdens. Bending your knees, you'll feel a stretch in the inner thighs, and you can laterally guide yourself side to side. If you have a fair range of motion, you can actually walk your hands to the right as you straighten out the left leg. Inhale back to center. Walk your hands to the left as you straighten out the right leg. Good. Let's go ahead and come back to center. We're going to inhale up. We're going to pull our heels towards one another, pointing our toes away, and bringing our hands onto our thighs. If you push into the left thigh but lengthen through the spine and rotate to look over your right shoulder, you'll have a nice stretch, or a nice twist rather, in the upper spine. Inhale back to center, push into the right thigh, look over your left shoulder. Good. Inhaling back to center. Exhaling left. Exhaling right. Inhale center. Exhale left. Inhale center. Lovely. So we'll make our way up, walk our feet together, and we're going to go ahead and come down and onto our pillows. You'll want to have your strap nearby. And so if you bring your right heel into the perineum, so right between your legs on the pelvic floor, the instep, or the sole of the right foot, is the inner left thigh, and the left leg is going straight out there. This knee doesn't go all the way to the floor for many people, and so if you needed to, you could bring a block or pillow into place to support your knee. With the strap, you can place it around the ball of the left foot. Spine is lengthened. I'm only going to hinge from my hip. And so I'm not going to round my spine yet. I'm just going to find my initial stretch on the back of the left leg. You may notice a tendency to twist to your right. Instead, bring yourself back to center. I use my big toe as a guide. I move my heart towards my big toe. So I have this imaginary line between those two landmarks, left big toe and my heart center. Now, if you bring your chin to the chest and let your head become heavy, it will require more support. So you might squeeze the pelvic floor, gently pull the belly button back, then bring the chin down and let your upper body surrender. Surrendering towards the knee, surrendering towards the toe. So we relax down and we relax long. Our affirmation is left and right and all around. Life's harmonies are mine. We're going to hang out here just a bit. If your body is anything like mine, the back of your legs are tight. And so it's easy to find a spot where every inhaled breath increases that tension, and every exhaling breath diminishes that tension. So inhale, tension goes up. Exhale, head to the foot, head to the knee. Inhaling left and right and all around. Exhaling, life's harmonies are mine. So we recognize that there is tension, that we recognize resistance, but we don't identify it or give in to it. We embrace it. Left and right and all around life's harmonies are mine. Inhaling up, extending both legs out. We'll take a interlude. Palms in the lap, legs extended outward. Here is Dandasana, staff pose. There is no affirmation that we use that's prescribed to be with this posture, but we can keep the affirmation that we were using flowing through our mind. Left and right and all around, life's harmonies are mine. Look for what's going right in your life, not what's going wrong. It's another way of staying, of recentering. What is working well in your body? Is there something that isn't? Great. Join the club, but focus on all those things that are working well. Let's bring our left foot into position. So left foot, sole of the foot to the inner right thigh. Right leg extended. Strap around the ball of the foot. And here we are, hinging from the hips, moving heart and head towards the toes. Heart towards the big toe. When you're ready to relax, bring the chin down. So every inhale breath, you stretch. Every exhale breath, you relax. There is much more of a mental practice here than a physical one. Don't overdo the physical side. Left and right and all around, life's harmonies are mine. Inhaling up. Good. And now we're going to go ahead at this point and come into any cross-legged position. So I'm using Siddhasana, where my right heel is to my perineum, or actually to my left sit bone. Left foot tucks into the crease here. Right foot is in the back of the crease there, and turn palms up. So this is a moment to recenter, to go right back to your original practice. As you stay within that central pathway, you could affirm, at the center of life's storms, I am serene. At the center of life's storms, I am serene. There is a truth for me in my yoga practice that I cannot twist too much. Twisting will always, in our physical body, when we twist the body, it will always involve our heart in some way. And so we've already done one twist. We were standing with hands to the thighs and twisting with the upper spine. Here we're going to come into Matsyasana. It's actually Ardha, which means half, Matsyasana, which is king of the fisher's pose. I don't know exactly where all that comes from. But if you will bring your right thigh parallel to the short edge of your mat, plant the left foot on the other side of it, lengthen, and then find a handhold and bring the left arm out. Your left arm is going to travel parallel to the floor until you intentionally place it down and provide a connection to the earth. So we're going to follow with our eyes the left hand until we cannot twist anymore. Plant the left hand behind you. Try to keep your shoulders relaxed and level. Keep your breath dynamic. I said twisting will always involve your heart. Hear that in your affirmation. I radiate love and goodwill to soul friends everywhere. I radiate love and goodwill to soul friends everywhere. There's a lot going on that can't be shown, but there is always a sense of lengthening and relaxing. So lengthen the crown of the head to the ceiling, relax your shoulders around that lengthened spine. As you exhale, relax in the direction of the twist. On the inhaling breath, slowly come back to center. Let's come back to Dandasana, back to the staff pose. I radiate love and goodwill to soul friends everywhere. Now we'll bring the left heel to the right sit bone, left leg parallel to the short edge of the mat over here. Right foot crosses over. The whole right foot is to the floor. Now I begin with my hand on my shin below my knee, so I'm not pulling on the knee itself. Lengthening, right arm out. Follow the right arm with your eyes. Plant the right hand behind you. Remember, lengthen and relax. Lengthen the spine, relax the shoulders. Inhale, tension builds. Exhaling, relax in the direction of the twist. I'll leave you to it here for another few rounds of breathing. You're welcome to use the affirmation. I radiate love and goodwill to soul friends everywhere. So here's an activity. We've been engaged in this twist. And of course, life gives us other kinds of twists where we suddenly find ourselves twisted up and we don't know how we got there, but we can regain our center and coming back to your center, come into any cross-legged position. And I invite you to feel that that tube of light in the core of your body has actually expanded. It's bigger, it's wider. And so there's more light that can travel inward and upward. The entire path of yoga is one of completing circuits. At least that's one way to view it. And that is to say that we bring the Kundalini energy at the base of the spine. Typically that Kundalini energy is indicated by, if you have a physical map of the chakras, that there's a little serpent like a snake coiled at the base of the spine. And we want to straighten that coil out, bring it up, and connect it to the point between the eyebrows. And one could say that when yoga is achieved, that has also occurred. You've made that inward complete circuit. I set ablaze the fire of inner joy. We're going to come down into locust pose. And the affirmation in locus is I'll recall my scattered forces to recharge my spine. If that sounds like a question, it's because I can't remember exactly. We'll find it. So we're going to lie down on our belly. We're going to bring our arms beside us. Legs are together, and you can use your fists to push into the floor. So as you inhale, your feet come up, your heart comes up, your hands can come up, or they can press down. I recall my scattered forces to recharge my spine. Good, let's exhale down. Bring your hands beside you. Push up onto all fours. And come over and onto your back. And you'll be in constructive rest position once again. So, from this position, we're going to do a final twist. And the value of these twisting poses is, again, that they will always bring dynamically bring energy into the heart center, where it can then be expanded and shared. So with the arms spread out, palms down, heels are close to the hips. And on an inhale breath, we can lift our hips off the floor. I'll go ahead and swing your hips to the left, come down on your right hip, and cross your left thigh over your right thigh. Do not let your left shoulder or arm come off the floor, but roll to your right. Now, we've already twisted energy towards the heart from below. Let's lift our head up, turn to the left, put it down, and we're now twisting energy from above back down to the heart. You could turn your left palm up. Our affirmation here, I open to this flow of God's life within me. I open to this flow of God's life within me. Bring your head back to center, bring your knees back to center, uncross and shift to the opposite side, crossing right over left. We come into the corresponding twist on this side, lift the head up, turn to the right. I open to this flow of God's life within me. Good, inhale, knees back to center, uncross. Bring your heels close into your hips. Press your hands flat to the floor. As you exhale, do a pelvic tilt, pressing the lower back flat and tipping the tailbone up. Now, on an inhale breath, feel the spine off the floor coming up onto your shoulders. And begin to treat this like a flow. Exhaling, return the spine to the floor, arching the lower back up. Exhale, pelvic tilt, press the lower back flat. Inhale, peel the spine off the floor, coming up into the shoulder stand. Now the hands can be pressing into the floor, and you'll find you're able to come up a little higher, a little bit bigger inversion. Exhale down. Beautiful. Next time you return the spine to the floor, go ahead and straighten your legs out. And at this point, if you have an eye pillow or you want to prop beneath your knees, you could do that. So go ahead and come into some deep, relaxing position. Your fingers can either rest beside you or on your diaphragm. If your fingers are on the diaphragm, it's very nice to feel the rhythm of the breath. Not that you're breathing, but breath is flowing through you. Your fingers can help you notice it. You can continue to use that affirmation. As you inhale, I open to this flow. Literally the flow of breath. I open to this flow of divine life within me. I open to this flow of divine life within me. There is a direct connection between Shavasana and a meditative state. Both are situations in which our goal is expansion. We've relaxed, we've remained focused inwardly, and now we are allowing expansion to take place. You might find the greatest expansion occurs in the space after an exhalation is finished and before the next inhalation begins. Now these next moments are very, very rich in potential because it gives us a chance to control the circumstances of our practice while remaining centered as we transition from Shavasana to our seated posture. So go slowly. Make one movement and then recenter. So bend the knee, recenter. Bend the other knee, recenter. Extend an arm out along the floor. And as you exhale, roll to that side. Pause and center. On an inhale breath, push your way up. And come back to your seat. And now, having made that transition, turn palms up and recenter this final time. Turn your attention back as we did in the beginning. And as soon as you find and establish the pathway of the energy spine. I invite you to begin to use that mantra, inhaling, energy rising upward, Hong, exhaling, Saw. We'll end our practice, our sadhana, and we'll affirm this affirmation on the quality of awareness. We'll repeat it 3 times. The first loudly, and it can be a loud mental voice. And then we reduce the volume into a whisper. But as the volume comes down, our willpower goes up. So I invite you to repeat with me first loudly. I behold the world with eyes of calmness and of faith. For I know that, as I view others, so will I myself become. Again loudly, I behold the world with eyes of calmness and of faith. For I know that, as I view the world, so will I myself become. A little more softly, I behold the world with eyes of calmness and of faith. For I know that, as I view others, so will I myself become. This time in a mental whisper, gaze to the spiritual eye, and great willpower. Make these words your own. I behold the world with eyes of calmness and of faith. For I know that, as I view others, so will I myself become. We're going to rub our hands together and we'll end by chanting Om 3 times. Om. 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 Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.